Hey, hello, bonjour, здравствуйте, assalamu alaikum, guten tag, konnichiwa, ni hao, hola. Damn, I need a few more languages on there. Hey there, guys. Hey, party people. My name is Megan. Welcome back to the Knitters Party podcast. If you're a returning viewer, if this is your first time, hey, hello. Good to see you. Hope you like my channel. This is where I talk about all things knitting. I do have a little bit of crochet today as well. But that's pretty much the gist of it. So hello and welcome. This will be my last podcast before heading out to Egypt. So the next time you see me, I should have a nice, beautiful picture of the pyramids or something to show you, something fun and lovely. My husband and I are going to be living in Egypt for the next 8 months. We travel on January 14th, 2018. We leave January 14th of this year, 2018. We return September 15th. We have like round trip tickets and it's for 8 months out. It's absolutely crazy. Never done anything that long living abroad, but this should be a fun experiment. So yeah. Anyway, hope it all works out for the best. Let's get into my knitting. I swear, this is a knitting channel, it's a knitting podcast. But first, what am I drinking? This is a party after all, the Knitters Party in fact. And today I'm drinking a Ballast Point Calm Before the Storm. It is a coffee cream ale with vanilla. And it is fucking delicious. And it just tastes like freshly brewed, snappy coffee beans. Oh my God, it's fucking fantastic. You should try it. They're based out of San Diego, which is where I call home. Currently I'm coming to you from Clarkston, Michigan. This is my family's home where we are staying temporarily before moving abroad. But eventually one of these days I'm going to be in San Diego, I'm going to be in Cairo. I've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up on the next year on the horizon. So cool. Let's get into the knitting, shall we? I've got a couple of finished objects today, which is surprising because I had a bunch of finished objects last time, but let's just do it. So I'll start off with my crochet. Oh, actually, what am I wearing? I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that I'm wearing a hand knit garment. If you didn't know, I guess, this is a hand knit sweater. This is the Summer Tea shirt, I'm sorry, by Vera Sanon. And it's knit for a fingering weight yarn. This is knit out of lace weight yarn. This is Knit Picks Gloss Lace, which is, I wanna say 75% merino wool and 25% silk. It is not superwash, and you can tell because it is felting right under the armpits where it gets a little bit of moisture and some, you know, action going on. But what's funny is I knit this about a year ago because I was gonna bring this to Egypt. I lived in Alexandria, Egypt, last fall of 2016. And I knit this because I was like, oh, I'm going to the desert, I'm gonna want to wear a hand knit sweater, but definitely nothing that's DK worsted, not even fingering weight. So I did make this with all the nice holes in it, but it's got a nice high collar, nice long half sleeves here. And so I decided to make this my Egypt sweater. And so that's exactly what it is. I did not wear this in Egypt because it is actually still so hot that even a lace weight shirt just doesn't do well. But this time we're going in the winter, so it might actually be cold enough for me to wear something like this. Haven't decided if I'm gonna bring this to Cairo this next time, so we'll have to figure it out. Anyway, the light is sort of coming and going. It's a hazy day here in Michigan, but the sun keeps coming on in. Hope that the colors won't be too washed out or anything like that, but never a way to really avoid it. Anyway, let's get into those finished objects because I've got a couple of fun ones. And like I said, I'm gonna start off with my crochet. This is a crocheted cowl. Let me see if I can put it on. When I put this on, it looked really silly. Like my mom put it on and immediately hers looked absolutely gorgeous. When I put it on, it looked really weird. It actually is a beautiful cowl. This cowl unfortunately does not have a name. I call it the Pretty Skeins cowl because I purchased this yarn at the Pretty Skeins yarn shop in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. The yarn itself is Sirdar, what is this? Sirdar Soft Spun Chunky. It is I would call it like a heavy worsted weight, maybe even a bulky weight yarn. And this is 53% nylon, 24% wool, and 23% acrylic. So it's really sturdy, but it has like the really nice shine that comes with like the nylon and acrylic. So I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera, but it actually really does sort of sparkle like champagne. And this colorway is called, oh God, Amber, I suppose. But there's nothing on the ball band that says the colorway, but when I put it into Ravelry, it had a couple color suggestions, and this is about the closest color I could come up with is Amber. So I'm sure that's what it is. but no guarantee. But yeah, I picked up the yarn at Pretty Skeins in Windsor, Ontario, and she had a sample knit up with this, and I thought it was knit. I'm gonna take this off because wearing two wool items. Ah, caught on my earring. Oh my God, this is real life, you guys. Crap, that literally just caught on my earring and pulled up a big loop. That right there caught on my earring. No harm, no foul, I suppose. Anyway, so I saw this on display at the Pretty Skeins yarn shop in Windsor, and it looked like it was knit because you see all these V's, and it's just on some lovely mannequin. It looks perfect, but it's knit up in the same colorway. And the lady, I talked to her and I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful cowl. Like I can see it's knit with this yarn, and she goes, actually, that's crochet. And I was like, what? And the outside of it, the right side, looks very much like knit. You see these V, it almost looks like ribbing, but on the inside, you'll see the actual little crochet stitches in the back there. And I actually really like the look of the back, some of the crisscrosses of the crochet. It looks really nice. Anyway, this yarn was on clearance. I'm pretty sure I paid like $4 a ball for this yarn, and I picked up 4 skeins, and I just crocheted until I ran out. Because literally the last 5 stitches are like, so it's not available on Ravelry, so I can pretty much tell you. It's like a double crochet through the back loop. What is it called? Half something double, blah, blah, blah. I'm not that much of a crocheter. Anyway, the last 5 stitches are like double crochet, half double crochet, like single crochet, half single crochet, and then like a slip stitch basically. So it slowly, gradually turns back because it's just knit in a big spiral. Let me see if I can show you the end and the beginning. So this is the end. It really just goes from your regular stitch and it goes right down into nothing. It's really seamless. However, with the beginning rows, I sort of had some problems. I didn't follow the directions. I thought it was going to be silly and I don't know. So anyway, in the bottom, you can see I sort of made it look funny. I don't know. It's not actually a mistake. I did it on purpose, but it looked stupid. And once I started following the directions, it just crocheted up into a spiral and you didn't tell where's the beginning, where's the end, anything like that. But I did the best I could. And then on the back, I sort of fixed it up when I was weaving in my ends. I had like a big hole here because what I thought is when you come up to an end of a row with crochet, you usually like chain up and then go on the next row, chain up and go on the next row. So whereas knitting in the round, you're knitting in a big spiral, normally with crocheting in the round, you come to your last stitch and then you basically like, it matches up 1 to 1 and then you chain up to start the next row and they just are 1 to 1. They're next to each other rather than a spiral. So you're knitting like actual, you know, rows on top of itself, or you're crocheting that. Anyway, this one is actually to be crocheted in a spiral so that you don't have any of those chain ups, which look different than a normal stitch. Long story short, I didn't follow the directions and I paid the price for it. But anyway, this is actually going to be a gift for my mom. She saw me crocheting with this and she goes, wow, that is such a pretty yarn. I love like the sort of sheen it has. I like the golden color. It's really beautiful. And so I decided to give it to her because it doesn't look that great on me. It looks much better on her. So we're going to give this to Mom. And I hope she wears it. I hope she likes it. Realistically, if she doesn't wear it, I don't care. She doesn't like it though, then I'll give it to someone who will, or perhaps keep it for myself because I think it's pretty nice. Cool. That's my first finished object. I get so thirsty filming these things. I did my hair this morning and it like did not cooperate, so I can see these little pieces falling out, but fuck it. Don't care enough. All right, my next finished object, moving right along. This is a hat that I knit for my friend Pam. This is the Tuva hat by Turvid. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and let me tell you, this is the easiest pattern I've ever done for a hat. It just is like a 4-row repeat, and it's just got these lovely eyelets. It's super cute. I think it's slouchy. I'm not gonna try it on because, again, my hair not cooperating today. But I tried it on before. I've put pictures up on Ravelry, and it looks really nice. And this is a hat that I knit for my friend Pam, like I said. When we thought we were going to Egypt in December, we had our going away brunch with all of our friends, this one last hurrah. And all my friends asked for a little something, right? So 3 of my friends asked for hats, and 1 friend asked for a pair of socks. And on my last episode, I showed the 2 hats that I had knit for Natalie and James, my really good friends. They're dating each other. And so I knit those hats up. I showed them on the last podcast. I actually saw them this past week. We went out for drinks and I gave them the hats and they absolutely loved it. They thought it was so cool. Oh, and another cool thing, I forgot. My traveler's hat for James, the gray hat that I had on the last podcast. A person contacted me on Ravelry and said, hey, I love the modifications you made to this hat pattern. Would it be okay for me to feature it on my blog? And I was like, yeah, of course. What's your blog? And so I was in contact with the person who runs Knitted Bliss. It's a blog for knitting, all things knitting. And on Mondays, she does a feature for somebody who's done a pattern and they've made lots of modifications. And so it's called Modification Monday. And she featured my hat. I was like, wow, I've really made it, you know? And I said, how did you find out about me? Like, have you watched my podcast? Or, you know, did you just see my finished product on, on the Traveler's Hat website on Ravelry? And she goes, yeah, basically I was searching for recently finished projects with modification in the notes. And I saw your mods. They were very clearly written out. I love your hat. Finished product looks great. I'd love to feature it. And so I was featured on a blog. I'm gonna put a link to that blog down below in the down bar. Please check it out and check out her blog because I was featured there. So now I can tell you a little bit about it and tell you how cool I am for being featured on a fucking blog. Anyway, I was really excited about that. So that's that. That was James's hat. This is Pam's hat. This was, like I said, knit for my friend Pam. I am seeing her not tomorrow, the day after. We're actually going out to dinner and then back to her place to play video games. So yeah, we're gonna play some N64, maybe a little Super Nintendo, a little retro gaming, all stuff in my wheelhouse. But yeah, so I'm gonna give her this hat. I hope she likes it. And she had asked for, I asked everyone what color they like and what they wanted. They all said, I want a hat, whatever colors they gave me. And Pam just said, oh, something pastel. And I'm like, very much a jewel tones kind of girl. Like I do a lot of color. I don't really wear a lot of pastels, and the only pastel that I sort of like is this color right here, this like seafoam green. So when I went to the yarn store, I was just like looking around and I saw nothing pretty that was in a pastel. I just don't love pastel pinks. Yellow is really hard to wear on a lot of people. My husband was like, why didn't you get orange? I'm like, who wears orange as a hat? Like, that's weird. So I picked up this yarn. This is Nurture. Oh, I shouldn't have crumpled it all up and shoved it in my yarn ball. This is Nurture for Euro Baby. It's 100% cotton. And this is the colorway Baby Shower. And now let me show you this yarn because it's a little textured. I don't know if you can see it, but it's not an even spin. Like it's spun, it looks like there's cotton spun and then it's got another sort of finer thread running around it. So this has a very unique looking yarn, I suppose. Long story short, I started making a brioche hat because I was like, okay, well, I want to do something fun. It has to be interesting enough. So I started a brioche hat and I got about 1 inch of ribbing done for the brim and you couldn't even see the brioche. It just looked like regular ribbing, but it was using so much yarn and it just, you couldn't see anything. It didn't look pretty or fun or fancy, and that's because this yarn, and with it being cotton, this yarn just did not show off anything the way I wanted it to. So I had to frog all of that, all of my brioche knitting. I frogged it and I cast on just a different hat pattern. So I decided to make this tuva hat because it's so simple, anyone could do it. And I actually think that now that it's been washed and blocked, I think that it shows off the pattern pretty nicely and it actually shows off the texture of the yarn. But let me tell you, this thing is so fun. I just love like playing with it. Like I feel like I'm, you know, making a pizza pie, you know, just sort of like turning this. This weighs nothing. This weighs absolutely nothing. Like I don't know how it's so lightweight because it's cotton. But I hope she likes it. I hope she wasn't looking for a really warm, like wintry hat. But maybe she'll be able to wear this year round. It is super slouchy. You can see this thing is like bigger than my head. So it's gonna be a slouchy hat. I wanted it that way. Hope she enjoys it. So there you are, Pam. She doesn't watch the podcast. So yeah, and I haven't weighed this out, but it looks like a little less than half the skein left. So I'm not sure what to make with it because it's cotton. I actually bought it. If I decided not to make her this hat, I bought this for myself because I like the color enough to maybe make like dishcloths or washcloths or something like that. But I don't know if I'm gonna bring this to Egypt. Oh yeah, I've started packing. I packed all my yarn. I'm bringing 49 skeins of yarn to Egypt. Too much? What do you think? Last time I was in Egypt, I probably brought maybe 15 skeins, 20 skeins of yarn, and I knit everything. I knit it all, because I knit a couple of sweaters, I knit a couple of shawls, a pair of socks. I knit a few things anyway, and I ran out of yarn, like in no time. And so I'm bringing a little extra yarn this time. I have projects in mind for almost all of them. Check out my yarn haul video if you're interested in seeing what I'm bringing. But I have even more friggin' yarn that I'm bringing. Anyway, that's that for Pam. Hope she likes it. She won't tell me even if she hated it, so that's okay. All right, on to my last finished object, and probably my favorite one. This is one that I was working on last time, and so you saw it when it was a work in progress still. And now I get to show you the finished cowl. So this here is the striped cowl by Vanessa Ewing. And this is a paid for pattern on Ravelry, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why it's paid for. It's literally stockinette with a little bit of ribbing. The stitch count could be anything, really. You could make it as long as you want or as short as you want. Like, the stitch count isn't some fancy special number. It's like a $6 pattern on Ravelry. So whatever, I was happy to do it because, you know, even that. Okay, so this is for my mother-in-law. She purchased the yarn and just gave it to me and said, knit me something beautiful. We picked the pattern out together. It's a gorgeous pattern, and the actual finished cowl looks fantastic also. I think it looks best with the green, the forest green color up front. It's a beautiful cowl. I just don't know if it's worth the $6 paid pattern on Ravelry, but that's okay. I recommend it. It's a great cowl, super easy and fast to knit up. This took me like 2 days to knit, and 3 days, about 3 days to knit. And it was just like a lovely knit. It was really easy to follow the pattern, you know, just making a couple stripes, and it's beautiful. I love it. And I know my mother-in-law loves it. This I finished on Christmas Eve. So this officially counts for my 2017 like finished objects. Finished it on Christmas Eve, had it blocked out by, I'm sorry, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. Had it blocked out by New Year's morning. So this is sort of like straddling the line between 2017 and 2018 knits, but that's okay. So a little bit about this. The yarn, first and foremost, is Eden Immoral Fibers in the colorway Forest and Indigo. So the green is forest, blue is indigo. And this is a yarn that is hand dyed exclusively for River City Yarns in Edmonton, Alberta. And when I was there, because that's where my, you know, my mother-in-law lives, when I was there, we looked together at these yarns, and let me tell you, she just has the best taste in yarn, the most expensive taste in yarn, really, because this is a merino cashmere nylon mix, and it's like 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, 80 merino, or something of that mix. But it is so soft and lovely, and it is squishy, and it's absolutely stunning. I'm really happy with the finished product. So look at the back seam. This is the only part where I had a hard time sort of making it seamless. If I straighten it out and like really tug on it, it sort of goes away. But you can see that the seam where I'm connecting my rows doesn't look that great. I had watched a couple YouTube videos on how to do a jogless join when you're switching colors in the round, and this was the best that I could make it look. And this was also written out in the pattern. It showed you how to do this, but it didn't turn out beautifully. And unfortunately, like, you can see basically like the big seam where you are floating your colors. On the inside, it actually looks more tidy than on the outside. So I basically just floated my colors up the back, and I twisted it around my working yarn every single row. I found that that was prettier than doing it every other row. Where did I start? I started with the green. I actually don't know how I made this look so decent on the back, but the back side looks better than the front in terms of the seam, just because it's nice and tidy. The front seam, fine. You just wear that in the back. No one's ever gonna see it. But that's the only part where I was sort of, I almost wish that I had just had a jog in my join, because I feel like that would have been cleaner than trying to do what I did. Because basically how you do it is you sort of knit into the stitch below, and it sort of, what would be 2 rows of knitting turns into 1 stitch. And so you'll see that some of these seams right here, where it should be 2 stitches, like for the blue row, for example, you only see like 1 actual stockinette stitch right there. And that was written in the pattern that way. And it was on the YouTube videos for how to do a jogless join. I don't love it. I would prefer a jog over this because this just doesn't look great to me. But that's okay. I know my mother-in-law doesn't care. Connie, if you're watching this, I know you are. Don't worry about it. I don't actually feel bad about it. I don't think it looks bad or anything. And I know that you don't mind. Also, wasn't it her who said that everything you create, everything you make yourself has to have at least 1 or 2 little mistakes in it, right? You're not trying to compete with God. You're just trying to make something the best you can. And so there we are. I'm not trying to compete with anybody. I'm just trying to make a lovely, beautiful cowl. So this is going out in the mail to her super soon after I finish what is my first work in progress. So I'm going to try and drape this over the back of my workstation here, see if it'll give me a little bit more shade. Nope, definitely just slunk back down. Whatever. All right, let's go move on to works in progress. So going along with that cowl, I had a little bit of yarn left. And so I actually had 63 grams of yarn left after all of this. I left over, I had 63 grams of yarn total. And so I decided to make some mittens. So I have a hoe. This is my first mitten. I actually have not yet cast on my second mitten, but this is going to hopefully use up every last scrap of yarn for these here skeins. And this is the World's Simplest Mitten pattern by Tin Can Knits. I've made a couple pairs of these before, and let me tell you, they are the world's simplest pattern, the world's simplest mitten. I tried to make a pattern very similar to the cowl itself in terms of like the striping and like the numbers and then the switch right here where you switch from your dominant color essentially. I thought that the fingers were going to be a little longer, but you know, I followed the pattern and I decided just to end it where I ended it here. And so it isn't quite the same number of blue repeats as there are green repeats, but what can you do? I decided to make a green thumb and just keep that monochrome, so that it adds a little bit more green to the overall look of the mitten. I think it's fine. This right here is where I started my decreases, so that's going to tell me on my next mitten exactly where to start decreasing. But so this is the front of the mitten. I really want this to be the left hand because this part looks pretty perfect. I had a very similar problem trying to carry my yarn up with the mitten that I did with my cowl, and so the back of it doesn't look quite as nice. You can definitely see where I've carried the yarn and where I've had a hard time carrying the yarn. And you can also see where when you basically pick up stitches for the thumb, it creates a little bit of a hole, so I tried to stitch that back up and everything, but unfortunately, I don't know how that happened, but some of my yarn came over the front and it's got like a weird thing. I'm not actually worried about it. I don't really care. It doesn't look bad by any means. The other mitten is knit identical to this, and so you basically just mirror them. And so I'm going to try a lot harder for my next mitten to make sure it looks good. So hopefully when she has a left and a right mitten, both of them will look the same on the front and not have to worry about it. But where I did my color changes, I decided not to do that jogless join, and it looks better. You can't even tell, especially because the end of row where you change color and also you know, just where you change color, that's where you start the thumb gusset. And so you're adding stitches anyway, which is going to create sort of a slanted leaning knitting going in the thumb gusset direction. You can't even tell that I switched yarns. And like, you know, for example, right here is a good place where you can see the actual join, the jog, and it's nothing. It's no big deal. So I definitely like this better than trying to do a jogless join for a mitten. My mother-in-law does have small hands, and so these are a size adult small mittens. They're quite snug on me, but hopefully they'll be nice and, you know, perfect size for her. I need a bit more length. I'm also thinking if I have any extra blue, I'm thinking I'm gonna cut into the cuff and just make it as long as I can until I actually run out of yarn, because this is fancy, expensive, and beautiful yarn. I want to use every last scrap. I don't want to have to throw away anything, and I don't want to be left with a tiny scraggly ball of, you know, just the middle of one of these cakes. What am I going to do with 5 grams of worsted weight yarn? Absolutely nothing. And so I'm going to just hopefully try to make this as long as I can, which means for my next one, ooh, maybe I'll do a provisional cast on for my next mitten so that I can, you know, knit it down longer if and when I have extra yarn. That's a great idea. I think I'm going to do that. Good. See, already working things out. love podcasting. So that's my first work in progress, officially a half object, whatever you want to call it. But I love this yarn. It's easy to work with, so squishy and soft and beautiful. And that's that. So my last work in progress, not my last one. I have a couple other things on the needles, but I'm not going to talk about them because I didn't work on them, so who cares? My last work in progress that I'm going to show, living in my lovely, I have one project bag, so I show this every single time. I'm like living in my project bag. Like I have exactly one project bag, which by the way is Nola Delisle. I got this for Christmas a couple years ago. It's got peacock feathers on it. It's a really lovely drawstring, well made. And I recently washed this. I threw it in the washer and dryer. Came out sparkling, looking lovely. So definitely not a, it's not a weak bag. It's sturdy. It's got a lot going on with it. So you can throw it in the wash and dry and it's great. Anyway, these are my Hermione's Everyday Socks. Oh my God. I hate this. Every time I do socks, I do 2 at a time because I will definitely have second sock syndrome bad. But that means that I've got essentially 4 balls of yarn living in my project bag. So I have the heels, toes, and cuffs color worked up into 2 balls, and then I have my 2 skeins of yarn that I'm knitting the actual sock out of. So I have 4 balls in here just kicking around, and it creates like big knots every single time. Actually, that one's not so bad, but whatever. So these are Hermione's Everyday Socks by Erica Luter, and these are for my friend Lindsay. I don't think she realized when she asked for socks that I'm not very good at, I'm not fast at knitting socks. I'm certainly not bad at knitting socks, but I'm definitely not fast at knitting them. So she may have to wait until after Egypt to get hers, which really sucks because she was at brunch where all my other friends now have finished hats and Lindsay's gonna be waiting 8 months for socks. Oh, feel bad, but girl, I told her that it would take a little bit longer. Also, we all thought that everyone was gonna get their stuff after Egypt because I thought it was going in December. Anyway, this is a super standard sock. I am doing it cuffed down with a heel turn and gusset. That's what it is. The heel flap and gusset. There we go. And for the foot of my sock, this is the underside of the foot. I like to add a little bit of ribbing. And that is because everyone has different arches. And so personally, I have really high arches. And my biggest pet peeve is when a sock isn't tight around my arch. I don't know why, I just feel like it adds support even when it really doesn't. But I like the idea of that. And so I don't know how high Lindsay's arches are, but I decided to just knit a couple rows of, or a couple of ribs. There we go. God, what am I doing? I decided to knit a couple of ribs to give it some structure, and it can stretch out if it needs to. It can be tighter if it needs to. That's just what I prefer to do. Only on the underside of my sock. The front of the sock, of course, has the Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern. And last time I showed you, I think I had just turned the heel flap and knitted down all the decreases until you get back to your original stitch count. And then once I did that, you'll actually see. So I had a couple of ribs starting right from the base of the foot, right at the base of the heel here. And then once you decrease down all the rest of your stitches, I actually started another rib just to give it that extra arch support. And then probably about 2 inch, maybe an inch from the toe, when I start decreasing for the toe, probably about an inch down, I'm going to get rid of that rib and just go back to the original ribs that are in here. And that way there's a rib designed specifically for the arch support. I just think it's a nice touch, you know, that's a little bit of mechanism in there to make my socks more complete. A little bit about the yarn. This is Malabrigo sock yarn in the colorway Wales Road. Wales Road, yes. And it's just a regular sock yarn, beautiful colors though. Oh my God, these blues and purples, gem tones, they're all just gem tones, teals, everything just looks beautiful. So you can't go wrong with Malabrigo. And it's so soft. Actually, this is 100% merino, superwash merino. It won't be the sturdiest socks, but chances are Lindsay won't be wearing them in her shoes. I'll tell her not to wear them in her shoes. They'll be house socks, and she will wear them forever and ever, and probably never wash them. And that's okay. Maybe I'll give her some wool wash and show her how to do it. But this is definitely the most expensive yarn that I bought for my friends. So I had all my friends, excuse me, all my friends got, you know, hats just made out of wool, or this one's cotton. And then this one I was like, oh, is there any, you know, what types of sock yarn do you have? And they pretty exclusively had Sweet Georgia, which is that Canadian dyer. I've worked with them extensively, and that has nylon in it. Or they had Malabrigo. And the Sweet Georgia colorways, nothing really spoke to me because I know my friend Lindsay loves these blues and purples. This is absolutely her colorway, 100%. So I saw this hanging up on the wall and I'm like, so I bought like $26 sock yarn for my friend. I'm hoping I have enough to knit myself a pair of socks out of this when I'm done with hers. And then we'll just have matching bestie socks, so I'm okay with that. Yeah, I know she's gonna love them, but I'm gonna try and get them done. I have exactly 1 week before we go to Egypt. I'm sorry, we're leaving on Sunday the 14th. I have 6 days. I doubt I can finish these in 6 days because I also have one mitten to do. I'm gonna have to really rush it and see if I can finish this because I'd love to leave knowing I'm finished with all of these for my friends. So that is that. All right, that's my last work in progress. I'm gonna take a small break here, reset my camera, and come on back with a couple of new acquisitions and a little 2017 roundup. Just sort of what have I done in 2017 and what am I on to in 2018. So when I was in Edmonton for Christmas, my mother-in-law, not only did we go shopping at the yarn store, River City Yarns, of course, down in Edmonton, but we looked at a couple of patterns for, you know, just things that she might want me to knit for her. And she saw a cowl that she absolutely loved. It is called, in fact, I downloaded it and purchased it. It's called the Green Willow Cowl. You can't see in this picture, but it's actually got a really lovely design. There's no other way for me to describe it. It's sort of like a crisscross, like, it looks like almost cabled zigzags. It's very unique. I've never seen anything like it, and it's beautiful. Go look it up because I can't explain exactly what it looks like. But she saw this pattern, and she asked if I could knit it with, you know, 2 different color yarns. And I said, to be honest, it would probably be really tacky and sort of ugly if I were to knit this absolutely stunning basic pattern with very sharp geometry, if I were to try to knit that with 2 different color yarns. So I told her, no, I wouldn't want to make that for you. So we ended up on the striped cowl pattern, what I finished making out of this, and it was lovely. But she said, I still want that friggin' cowl. And so I said, okay, let's go to knitpicks.com. Let's find some really lovely yarn. What do you like? And so we looked in the pattern. I think the pattern is for a DK weight fingering. Doesn't really matter. I can make whatever I want in whatever, you know, gauge I want. I'm pretty good at substituting, like, if it's a worsted weight pattern, I'll use fingering weight yarn and just make it work. Anyway, a cowl is no big deal. It's not like you need to swatch. It's not like there's a lot going on. So anyway, she picked out a couple of yarns that she really liked. Ah, it's still so sunny. Here we go. So we picked out, first and foremost, the Knit Picks Gloss DK in the colorway Jade. And this is a mix of, I want to say 70% merino wool and 30% silk. And I love this yarn so much. This is the Gloss DK. This shirt is knit out of the Gloss Lace. And so I've used this yarn before. It is not super wash, so she's gonna have to take good care of it, but I know that she will because she picked out this pattern and we both just oohed and awed our faces off because this pattern is absolutely stunning. And the pattern, the sample in the pattern is knit up using the same color of yarn. And so I figured that it would be absolutely beautiful in that same color. And so she picked it out. You can see this like subtle sheen because of the silk content in here. Oh my God, it just looks beautiful. And this colorway is gorgeous. I've knit a couple of things in green lately. I have like a very safe color palette. For me, it's like this jewel tone purple. I love a green. Couple things in blue, but if it's not a jewel tone, I generally don't knit with it. So anyway, this is like right in my wheelhouse and I feel absolutely great knitting with this. I hope she loves it. I know she will. And especially being in Canada, she could wear a cowl like 8 months of the year. Realistically, like 6 to 7 months, absolutely. And then possibly like April or May. Could still have a little bit of snow, it could still be chilly in Canada. So I love it. So I picked up 3 skeins of these. They are each 123 yards. The pattern called for like up to 370 yards, so it's absolutely perfect amount for 3 skeins of this Gloss DK. And I think that is just going to be the most beautiful cowl in the whole wide world. So when we were looking for yarn, she also found a different yarn in a different colorway that she just loved. And everything was on sale, by the way. I don't know how. I think I paid like $4 a skein. And this is like 30% silk content right here. 123 yards. I think I paid $4 a skein for silk and merino wool blend yarn. So It was a steal, and I felt absolutely no remorse about buying extra yarn because it was so affordable. Anyway, we purchased another couple skeins of yarn as well. And this one here is Knit Picks Capra DK, which is 85% merino, 15% cashmere. So this one has no nylon. Knit Picks makes a similar one called Capretta. This is Capra DK. Capretta is a sock weight, fingering weight yarn, and that has 10% nylon in it. But this one is no nylon, just all the best, loveliest cashmere and merino wool. And obviously she has lovely taste in it. So this was actually more expensive. I think this was a whole $6 a skein. Purchased 3 more balls of this, and I'm not sure what it's going to be just yet, but I know it's going to be something beautiful. Not sure what yet, but if you have any ideas, this is also 123 yards, I want to say. Yep, 123 yards, so about 390 yards total of this DK weight yarn. I'm thinking I'm gonna make her another cowl or like a shawlette sort of thing, maybe a French can-can. I'm thinking about these different pattern ideas. I know she loves cables, but with just 3 balls, I'm not sure if I'd have enough to do a really lovely cabled, like a full cabled shawl without it being just a little bit light. So anyway, she picked this out, and this is the colorway Regal. It's like a mix of mulberry purple with like a wine red. It's a really beautiful color, and I know that she loves it. Well, she picked it out herself. And I love it because I'm pretty much wearing, between my lipstick and my shirt, like I could be this yarn. So if I were a yarn, I'm pretty sure I'd be this colorway. And I'd be totally like cashmere and silk and all those things that were lovely. Anyway, that's the end of my, my acquisitions. But I did want to sort of talk a little bit about my year in knitting 2017. It came up on my Facebook newsfeed that I have been podcasting for about 1 year. I started podcasting in December 2016. I think my first podcast came out maybe early January 2017. Anyway, this is like my 1 year anniversary, so congratulations to me. Yay, happy anniversary. I'll drink to that. This is my 1 year podcast anniversary. I accept comments and praise down in the down bar below, or in the comments. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about my year in review. So according to what I posted on Ravelry, I knit 36 finished objects in the year 2017. And that includes 7 pairs of knitted knockers for charity, all the way from A cup through, I did 2 size double D cups and just gave those away to charity, which was so much fun. I even took a 3-month break in London from knitting altogether, and I still got 36 projects done. I also have a couple projects. I have 2 projects in hibernation. My Veni Vidi Vici shawl that I showed you guys a couple podcast episodes ago. It's like the shawl that I'm sort of designing. I just lost interest in it. We'll see if I pick it back up. I'm not sure on that one, but we will see. I'm actually not packing it or bringing it to Egypt, but I have the pattern written down. I think I just don't love the yarn and the bead choices that I have, but I have another beautiful yarn with complementing beads that go with it, so I might just reknit the pattern in my final colorway and hope for the best, and then have you guys all test knit it. But yeah, we'll see. And then I also have another project in hibernation, which is my Myrtle Cardigan by Marguerite. I'm just gonna put that there. I also frogged a huge big project, so I frogged my Julissa sweater by Vanessa Williams. That was the 2nd time around that I tried to knit it. I just need the right yarn. I'm never gonna knit it, I don't know. I bought the pattern years ago. I've tried knitting it twice now, and I just frogged it all because I hated the yarn that I was knitting it out of. I knit it out of Knit Picks worsted. It was a cotton, comfy worsted. That was the one. Yeah, it was a comfy worsted, and it sort of shed, and I don't love the cotton content, and it was just not happening. And so I just frogged it all. Can repurpose that yarn if I so choose. Maybe I'll just throw it away because I hate that yarn. Check out my yarn review for Knit Picks Comfy Worsted. I don't love that yarn. Anyway, I also wanted to do my top 5 projects that I've knit ever. Of all time, what are my top 5 projects? And this was fun for me to do because I just took a real hard look at my Ravelry page and all my projects, and I was like, what are my favorite things? What did I absolutely love? What do I wish I still wore? You know, what are they? And so from place number 5 all the way up to place number 1, I am going to put in pictures here so that you can see them all as well. So my 5th favorite project of all time, absolutely all time, is my Myrtle Cardigan by Snowden Becker. And this cardigan I knit in 2015 in San Diego. It is knit out of Madeline Tosh Merino Light. It's absolutely stunning. It didn't fit me when I made it. It certainly won't fit me now, but it was absolutely so much fun to wear, and it was beautiful, this beautiful yellow golden honey colorway. I wore it all the time, even though it was way too big. I knit the size that was right for me, but when it blocked out, all of the lace opened up and it was like 5 sizes too big. So I literally shrunk it in the dryer. This is Madeline Tosh yarn. I paid hundreds of dollars for this. It was actually a birthday gift. I got a gift card to an online retailer for yarn. So I knit this huge sweater. It was gigantic, and I literally put it on a full dryer cycle, 45 minutes in the dryer, and it is still a bit too big for me, but I can wear it. And so I wore it to death. I wore it probably once a week for months and months until I moved out to San Diego. And now that Mirajan sweater, I'm sorry, that is the Myrtle Cardigan. Now my Myrtle Cardigan is waiting for me in a storage unit in San Diego, along with a couple of other things, including my number 4 favorite knit of all time, which is For the Love of Spiders by Melanie Berg. And you might recognize this one because it is featured in my little intro scene that I, sometimes put up. I don't think I'm going to use it every time now, but it's there in the intro scene. Beautiful blue and like pistachio colored yarn. It was so much, I hated knitting it because it was a lot of purling back on the backside of, hundreds of stitches for this cardigan. I'm sorry, for this shawl, but it was absolutely beautiful and I loved wearing it. That is also sitting in storage in San Diego. But what can you do? Moving on to my number 3 favorite project of all time. That is the Celtic Cable Neck Warmer by Lindsay Hendricks. And I made 3 of these neck warmers, and I'm currently using the cable pattern in the sweater that I'm knitting, Britannia by Tin Can Knits, but I don't have that because I don't have any new progress on that. Anyway, so this Celtic Cable Neck Warmer is absolutely beautiful. I've knit it 3 times. I can knit this into infinity. It is just my favorite neck warmer or scarf or any sort of that pattern that I've ever made. It was fun. It's so fast. It uses worsted weight yarn, so you just feel like this instant gratification, but also the cable pattern is just fantastic. I could just knit that cable all day, every day. Cool. Going on to number 2, my 2nd favorite knit of all time. And these are my Fisherman Myths by Meg Rope. Now, I actually wear these fingerless mitts every single day. I put them in my pockets of my winter coat here in Michigan, and I have been wearing my winter coat every time I go out, and I can drive with my fingerless mitts, I can knit with my fingerless mitts, I can text, I can, pretty much do anything I want with my fingerless mitts on. I've gotten so many compliments on them, probably because the yarn is beautiful and fantastic, but also I think the actual fingerless mitts pattern is just awesome, and they're so practical. I never thought that I would use fingerless mitts. I thought they were super impractical, but this pattern, they're beautiful. I can go shopping with them. I can pick out yarn. You have full use of your hands while still feeling much warmer, because when you warm sort of the core of your hand, your extremities feel a lot warmer overall. I don't know. Anyway, that's that. Which brings me on to my number 1 favorite knit of all time. And this is probably a little self-serving because it is my own pattern. My favorite knit of all time is my own Sgt. Pepper's the Penguin pattern. And this is because I've now made probably 16 penguins total. No, not quite. I have 12 penguins. My mother-in-law has 2, so that's 14 penguins that I've knit. And oh boy, they are just so cute. I knit 2 penguins this year. I knit Atlantis out of that found yarn, and I just knit Lovecraft, a purple and green sort of haunted penguin for Christmas this year. And that was my 100th pattern on Ravelry that I had posted. I mean, I've knit probably more than 200 in my lifetime, but that was my favorite thing that I've ever knit. And they're fun because you can play with them, you can give them personalities. I mean, I've already talked to you about my love for amigurumi and just anything that is like a plushie with eyes and personality. But the fact that my husband likes them and my mother-in-law plays with them and keeps them entertained while we're away, it is just, they are my children. Really, truly, these penguins are absolutely my children. They are the cutest things in the whole world. So anyway, that's my top 5 project list of all time. What are yours? I'd be interested to find out. You know what? Let me do that. My Ravelry group has been really quiet lately, really dormant. I'm not very good at keeping in touch, but especially over the next couple of weeks while I'm not going to be podcasting because I'll be moving to Egypt and finding an apartment and probably starting a new job. It might be a couple weeks before my next podcast. Anyway, so this will be a great opportunity. I'm going to open up a thread in my Ravelry group, which is the Knitters Party podcast. So tell me, what are your top 5 favorite things you've ever knit of all time? And if you know how, please do link your project page in the Ravelry group as well, so that I can actually take a look at your exact project and be like, oh my god, I love your yarn, or like, whoa, look how awesome your modifications are, what have you. I'd love to see your actual project within the larger like pattern that's available on Ravelry. So definitely, what are your top 5 favorite projects of all time? Let me know. I think that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for joining me, as always. I keep forgetting to tell, okay, I'm available on Instagram, Ravelry as Meg311yo. I'm gonna put all that information in the down bar, probably forget. Anyway, don't worry about that, but I'm really excited. I have packed 3/4 of a suitcase. Is just yarn and knitting accessories. I have my ball swift and winder, I have my gleaner, I have I have 2 full sets of knitting needles. I'm not sure if I'm gonna bring all my crochet hooks or not, but I am bringing, yeah, 49 skeins of yarn. It is like 3/4 of a suitcase. And I tried my idea of like putting all my yarn into a Ziploc bag and smushing the air out. And guess what? I learned that Ziploc bags are not really airtight because I smushed all my bags down. They fit into a half a suitcase, and then literally the next morning, my suitcase was bulging up because all of the Ziploc bags had sort of recompressed with all the air that I had, you know, sat on top of, and I got rid of it anyway. And so Ziploc bags are not actually airtight. I'm looking for alternatives, but I don't have one of those vacuum sealers. Anyway, that's all. I'm gonna be moving to Cairo. Next episode, I will be coming to you from Cairo, Egypt. Maybe I'll do some vlogs, some just shorter videos. I'm not sure when I will have super reliable internet. Right now, the plan is that we land in Cairo on January 15th. We have a 7-night stay in a hotel. And let me tell you, Egypt has a couple of really affordable hotels. So we are staying at a hotel. We're in the junior suite with a city view for $22 a night. So we're there for the first week in a $22 a night hotel. I don't even know if we're gonna find housing that's that affordable. And yeah, so we're gonna stay in a hotel the first week where we're going to figure everything out with our permanent location for our apartment. I'm going to maybe go into my English school and officially do my, you know, final interview and onboarding and everything, but I might wait until we have a final apartment, just so I don't have to worry about starting a new job, possibly while I'm in a hotel, while I'm still looking for an apartment, all that sort of stuff. And so yeah, that's our plan. First week, stay in a hotel. After that, live in Egypt. You know, let's start doing it. This is going to be my 3rd time living in Egypt and my 4th time being there. I lived there in 2010 as a student. I was an exchange student at University of Michigan. They had an awesome Arabic department, and they had a program at Alexandria University where I took a summer Arabic language course. So in 2010, lived in Alexandria. Fall of 2016, my husband, for his PhD research, needed to go to Egypt as well. So we did a 3.5 month stay in Alexandria again. We thought that was going to be a year-long program. But while we were in Alexandria, we found out that we would be going to study abroad in London, and we were like, okay, let's just take this little break in London before going back to Egypt. So now this time that we're going to Cairo, we're going to be finalizing everything. This may be our last trip to Egypt ever, which is sort of scary and daunting and sad for me to think about because I love Egypt. But yeah, this could theoretically be our last time going to Egypt ever, and so I'm going to make it count. Yeah, so keep up with me. Also, I am available, like, if you're interested, and if you have Facebook, of course you have Facebook, join a couple of knitting groups. Personally, I've joined All Things Knitting, Knitting Uncensored, and Addicted to Knitting on Facebook, and I very occasionally will post, you know, fun little things up there, but I really love to see some things as well. Oh, in fact, just today, and unfortunately by the time this goes up, the offer is going to be expired, but just today on All Things Knitting, one awesome lady posted that she's got 4 patterns available for purchase on Ravelry, and they're called the mermaid scales patterns, what have you. She's got a fingerless mitts, a hat with a ponytail, and a cowl. And she said, hey, it's Mermaid Monday. Like, I'm giving you guys and only you guys on Facebook this like offer. If you buy one of my patterns, I'll give you another one for free. And so I was like, what? And I picked up the Mermaid Scales Fingerless Mitts pattern on Ravelry by Lena Matheson. And I got a cowl pattern for free. And this was $3. So anyway, if you're not on a knitting group in Facebook yet, join one, because not only is it a fun community where you can just like pictures and they post tons of yarn and people post their finished objects all the time. It's like a really good feel-good place, but also occasionally people will have sales on their own, you know, hand-dyed yarns or patterns on Ravelry, buy one, get one. I paid $3 for a fingerless mitt pattern I definitely would have made otherwise, and I got a cowl pattern for free. Hopefully I'll make them both. Either way, it's really cool. So join the community on Facebook, join us in our Ravelry group. I'm gonna open up that thread, and that's it. Thank you if you have made it to the end of this episode. I am really looking forward to keep podcasting, but we'll see what the next day brings. Awesome. All right, take care everybody. Ma salama. Ila liqa. Bye-bye.